Hello and welcome to the Voices in Montessori podcast, brought to you by the Greenspring Center for Lifelong Learning. Please subscribe to our podcast so we can continue to support your important work. As Dr. Montessori said, an education capable of saving humanity is no small undertaking. We agree. So let's get to work. I'm Tamara Sheesley Balis, and in today's episode, we're talking about art at the infant toddler level and how we promote creativity for these little people. My guest today is Saad. As a mother and a grandmother of 5, she brings her motherly knowledge and compassion with eagerness and excitement to the Montessori community. Sue received a BS in Business Administration from Alexandria University in Egypt and holds an American Montessori Society credential in infant toddler through the Princeton Center for Teacher Education. Sue joined Princeton Montessori School in 2008 as a toddler guide and is a conference presenter, an instructor, and a field consultant. Welcome, Sue. We're so happy to have you here today. So, Sue, let's start out by having you tell us, what is art for in an infant toddler classroom?
So art for infant and toddler and for even older children or even for us, it's a self-expression. It's experimenting with new ideas and new materials and doing your own things with giving materials. And I like to highlight that because we're gonna talk about it later. It's the importance of the child have his own original work and developing new skills.
So talk a little bit about how Dr. Montessori felt about art for children.
Dr. Montessori famously stated that all children can explode into learning. The, the groundwork we're laying here, the foundation of in a Montessori environment is love of learning and allowing children to explore the environment around them. They need to experiment in everything in their world so they can understand the world around them.
So talk to me about how adults can get in the way of children's creativity. How can they be a hindrance?
In Montessori environment, we are intensively trained in child development, which is so important because how do you prepare an environment without knowing the expectation from the child? We need to know where did the child, in what phase of his development, so you can set an expectation and set environment that is appropriate for his development.
Mhm. And that's the key role of the adult, is to observe the child and to see what the need is, and then to not put our own perspectives on art and creativity and all of those things, and to really fuel the child's spirit.
That's indeed. Um, it's so important not to put our preconceived notion about what the art should be. And we cannot teach art. When you teach, like what they call it, formal art, it's inappropriate for toddlers. They cannot create, they're not creative. It's not fostering creativity and curiosity within the child.
So instead of formal art, what are we looking to offer them?
Just basic art.
Mhm.
Basic art, like you offer the children just the basic, and they will engage with the learning materials and then construct themselves. That's what we need to work with the children.
Mhm. Mhm. So I think our listeners would really appreciate hearing from you what art activities could they present in an infant toddler environment? Like, what is appropriate for these precious little human beings?
First, it is important and essential to dispel the notion that one needs to be an artist or art expert to introduce art activities to young children. And we just need to, which is a common concern among adult learners and novice guides. Like, if every time said, I'm not artist, I cannot introduce art. It's like art in toddlers environment, especially, needs to be very simple. So to facilitate art area in the toddler environment, like various skills integral to producing art, such as scribbling, painting, printmaking, sculpting like Play-Doh and clay, pasting. And I would love to talk more about scribbling, especially scribbling. Scribbling is considered significant in a child development. So for us, like at Montessori, we all say children, they are in a sensitive period of movement, language, and order. I consider scribbling is a sensitive, it's part of our sensitive period for young children. And actually artists, they said at the age 1 to 4, they call it a stage of scribbling. It is significant for child development, encompasses hands and arm. And so it is a mirror for physical development. Most of the shapes that children experience with during scribbling were precursor to the word's alphabet. And then the children, they will learn how to draw realistic shape without knowing that they are learning. As we just said, they learn without know they are learning. So that's why scribbling is essential for child development. So we usually, for young learner or new scribbling, we start with one color at a time. So it's a black marker and white sheet of paper. The paper has to be a little bit big because they need to practice their movement, their hand and their arm, so they can develop these muscles. So we start with black marker and white paper. It's the strong contrast, black and white. Also, it's familiar what they see in a book, black and white. So this activity, what I said is a mirror for physical development. I see it. We see it every day. We see it in our environment. And just we have a few months ago, we have a little child, and he was not interested to art at all. So what I did is I get a paper and I get my black markers and just sit next to him. He was doing something completely different. And I started scribbling, like child scribbling. And then I finished. I took my paper and I said, it's my work. And I put it in my desk. A few minutes later, this little one, he went to get a sheet of paper and get the crayon, and he started scribbling. What I noticed, that he was not pressing enough, that there is some weakness of the muscle. So I start to observe this little one, and when he's doing all the activities, like with anyone engaging in any of the curriculum in the classroom. So I noticed there is lack of muscle development, and so we made a formal observation. So we observed the child for a month. Every day we sat for 30 minutes just to observe minute by minute. And then I take it when I notice there is a lack of development in physical development, and then I take it to the next step to the coordinator. And so this is not free invitation for novice guides. So when you see anything, go quickly. No, you have to observe. That's you highlight now the importance of observation in our toddler environment. And then we take it from there, and it's all start with scribbling.
So hold on one second. Before you move on, tell me what you discovered. You took a month to observe this child, a half an hour a day, completely committed to him. Tell us what you discovered during this time.
So we discovered there's lack of muscles development, even in the jumping and like hand movement. So we discover too many things. So this little one, he's receiving OT service right now.
And that came out of that observation, which came out of actually the art activity, which gave you this information.
Yes.
Wow. So can you talk a little bit about the pincer grip? Because I know Children's House guides can be protective of handing children a writing implement too early. So can you talk, because you're a teacher trainer, obviously you know the child development behind this. So can you help us understand that?
So this is so important question. So the children who expose to adult activities like drawing or trying to let the child write, they're actually deprived of simple work. They will miss out the they will miss out the self-confidence to do the work. You know, it's a process. We always look at the process, not the finished product. It's a process. The process is the child scribbling and build the muscles that needed for later on for writing, to develop the writing skills. So definitely we discourage all the guides to push the children, and that we said we follow the children. We need to follow the child. We follow the child, and the child will reveal himself through the activities that he chooses in his own. And then he will learn without knowing that he is learning.
And so when he's holding, like, could he be holding his black marker or crayon like this?
With his fist. Yeah.
His fist?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Started. That's when we introduce some art. When we're introducing art for the children, like for example, the paintbrushes, I was gonna come talk about it soon. As soon as the child can hold object with his fist, he is ready. This is how we know the child is ready. But introducing children to early experimentation of art is so important. That's why even we can start as early as a year old. Even the child will experimenting the crayon with his mouth, with his hand, and with his eyes. It is appropriate. This is how we introduce the children to the activities.
I think the idea of the black marker is great. Can you tell us, what do you do next in that kind of, do you give them a different color? Are you giving them two colors? I think
So we,
folks would
okay,
appreciate just more guidance.
absolutely. So first, why we give the child only one marker or one crayon? We want the child to focus in the activity, not to be distracted with too many colors. So we give the child, we start with black and then red. Red, the children love the red colors. And then for older toddlers, they may have more colors. They can mix the colors. When they master the phase that they are working in the muscles, and then they build their focus and concentration in scribbling, and then they can move to the second stage, which we can introduce them to mixing colors. It's seamless, like mixing color is blending color in the easel. It just the children love doing it. They enjoy the art activities.
And what do you say to the people who are say they don't want to do those art activities because they're too messy?
Yeah. Yeah. So art activities should be open all the time, accessible for the children every day. Or if you have a working period, they have access to the art activities every day. What they can do is with well-prepared environment, we're talking about, there is an area for the art. All the art supplies in designated place. So the child, he doesn't need to draw in a wall because he has a prepared environment that meets his need. The crayon, the crayons basket is here. The paper in the same shelf. He will get the paper and the crayon, and then he's gonna um, like work with his activities, with his choice, even the paint. And it's we all have water resources in our environment. I change all my art shelf after doing this research to be completely transformed. It's near the water resources and works beautiful. If it works with me, it would work with every guide. And then getting messy and so much, they need to explore. They are in a time to explore the world around them. They need to get wet. They need to have paint, and then they go wash their hands, and then the sinks full of paint. It's fun. It's joyful. Tamara, I want to tell you, when we introduce children with painting, uh, and they enjoy painting. You know what's more enjoyable than painting? Washing the paintbrush and stencil work. So watching the activities after they are finished is more joyful for them because it's always about the process. The toddler work to perfect himself. We work to perfect the environment, but for him, he wants to perfect himself.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that so much. Okay, so can you tell us, you walk into, let's say, let's start with a toddler classroom, 18 months and up. What are the art activities? You're a teacher trainer. What are the art activities that you feel like there should always be? If you're looking at the art shelves, you're looking to see what activities?
Okay, so first thing we put a crayon. You always they have the paper like available. Crayon, markers. Markers are not substitute for crayon, so they need to have crayons and markers. And then we can have. I love tearing paper. Tearing papers Like, it's a release of energy. You have energetic child turning paper. Like, you can tell him, and you can have colorful tissue paper, and you can tell him, do you want to tear this paper? Which is adult, they consider it as destructive activities. And it's fascinating. So they tear the paper, and then they make crumple the paper, and then they can use it for collage. So now they have a collage work, gluing, and then they can have stickers work from fine motor skills. We want the children to refine fine motor skills, and older children. And I can give you an example for what kind of stickers you want to add. So we do not appreciate any characterized sort of character stickers. Now, Amazon, they have roll of stickers like for realistic animals pictures, farm animals, wild animals, sea creatures, flowers, fruits, vegetables, all the variety. So the children, they see real. This is an orange that they're gonna have it for snack, and I put this orange in my sticker collage. Then we have sculptures, very important, the Play-Doh and clay. I don't recommend clay for children who's under 3 years old. It's quite rough for them. Play-Doh is, wonderful medium, and they respond very clearly, very well to the child action. They can squeeze it, they can roll it, poking, and they can take it from and adding to, and then they will learn the math concept from them, addition and subtraction. Um, we can put stencil work, which is like, sponge, and the children can like paint on it. I love printmaking. I do printmaking with fruit, real fruit. You can cut the orange in half or an apple in half, and then you can work with it a little bit, or you keep it like that. And you put a dish with paint, and the children can make their own original work. The paint, uh, of course, cutting paper for older children, like scissor, it just one of the things I see, the hole punchers, just start to put it in my in my environment, and the children are fascinated with the hole puncher. It is just like, and they want to help them. They want to make more holes, and then we look at it from through the window, or sometimes we put different color of paper under it. It is an easel, of course. Easel has to be open every day. If you have a double easel, the guides have double easel, double side easel in her environment, one for painting and one for chalk. It's amazing.
Mm. And it's that big motion too that they're using, like the brain gym, because they can really go big, which I know is one of those things that we can really be challenged by in our environments. If we don't have an easel, most children don't have access to that kind of movement,
Mhm.
which has really been shown for brain science to be really important for integrating the two parts of the hemispheres of the brain.
True. And also for the children who can't sit for too long, easel is wonderful activities. And then they're gonna wash their paintbrush, taking like 30 minutes washing, like, their paintbrush, and having fun and exploring, like, easel, like, when for older children, and you can we always introduce the child with one color, but later on you can introduce them for maybe mixing colors. And um, I have one child who loves to get messy. It's so beautiful to see her, like, and then after she paint the whole easel, and then she will make handprint and on the easel. The same child, when we that in the toddler program, they said we want to do some holiday gift for the parents, which I disagree 100% with them. But they said we're gonna make, parents want something, so they make a handprint on a tile, done by the art teacher. This child who loves art, every day she's in the easel, she refused. She refused to let anybody to put paint for her in her hands because it was not her own choice. It doesn't meet her need to do it right now.
And okay, so now you've piqued my curiosity. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you don't like the gifts to go? I understand if they are adult driven, that the concern with gifts going home for the holidays.
Yes. Yeah. So the whole idea of holiday work, I am a little bit against it, and I have reason why. I think it's like traditional art activities, like the um, coloring books and dot to dot activities. It is just they rob the child's self-confidence. So we do, and the joys of doing their own things. So when you cut a Christmas tree or menorah or like any kind of uh, even gloves, anything pre-cut paper, it's already a piece of work. The children, they don't want to finish your predetermined adult work. They want to create their own work. And we have to encourage that. We have to encourage the children to create their own original work because this is what satisfies their need. So, but for us, which were weaning a little bit from having this pre-cut or holidays, what can we do? We can work with the colors. So what I did is, like, instead of when I'm putting the paint for easel, I put the red. And if I have to mix it, it's red and green. The tearing paper, the tissue paper in red and green, so the children can make their collage. Stencil work, I put like the paper red or green or blue. For cutting work, so I work with the color, but like absolutely, the child does not need to do any gift for the parents to do. It's adult pleasing, holiday activities, art activities, adult pleasing. It's not coming from the child. Art activities does not help children to understand the meaning of the holiday, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Diwali, Ramadan, whatever. They don't understand. For toddlers, like we're talking about preparing the environment appropriate for this age group. Under 6 years old, the child cannot understand the concept of the holiday. It's not developmentally, they're not there yet. For 3 years old, it's exactly like 3 years old, they cannot wait when the food is on the table, it's time to eat. They cannot share because it's all about their building themselves. They are self-centered, which is developmentally appropriate for them. They need to do that. And also, they unfortunately they're adult pleaser. If you show them, if you said, oh, your work it's beautiful, I love your drawing, he's gonna immediately, he will go like completely how would I say it, like forget about his interest to do his own work, and all his focus is going to be how to please you. Like, if that's why I don't send any artwork for mommy or daddy, or we can talk about it. You can draw if you want to do some scribble and say, this is mommy and daddy. I'm happy to verbalize the work. But definitely, even though we have We have this also beautiful, diverse. It's pointless for the children.
Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you that one of the things that I find is the families can generate these concepts or these ideas. And as clear as we can be about having the child's work be centered and not having it be about the adults having their, like you said, painting the hand, or that really becomes arts and crafts. That is
Exactly.
very different from art. Art is, as you were talking about, that self-expression. It's about finding yourself and your voice, and it's all different and unique. I remember when I was trying to learn how to watercolor paint a few years ago, and my
Mhm.
daughter, who was in art school at the time for high school, um, she said to me, she said, "Mom, that is not art." I was following somebody else's template, doing exactly what they told me to do, and she was right. Like, it wasn't my self-expression, it was a technique I was using to learn how to make watercolor strokes and et cetera, but it wasn't my own self-expression, and she was right. And we want to give children the opportunity. This is not about the finished product. This is about their own development as a human
Mhm.
being, and this is one of those tools that we can use for their own self-actualization as a person.
Exactly.
All right, so Sue, so tell us, how do you keep the art area fresh, right? The children, you have a lot of beautiful art materials out, and you may have some children who are getting older in your classroom. What do you do to keep the art calling to them and engaging them and stretching them too, stretching their skills?
So one of the things we do for as we see the children mastering basic art, which is so important to have basic art. You know, children, they love um, to exercise with the work, practice with the work over and over repeatedly. Just exactly, like repetition is so important in a Montessori environment, as they like to hear same story, same song repeatedly. They want to use the same utensils they have available repeatedly until they master it. So when we see children, they are like wondering, like I have children like 2.5 years old, and you see that they are not going to the art environment often, which is, we have very rich art environment. So we can add something, challenge them. So for example, you mixing colors is a second step. um, when we have like crayon or markers, we can add, maybe put 2 to 3 colors as maximum. So the children, they can experience more and explore more about their capabilities. And we always say less is for more. Like, you can put more than 3 markers. And even when we tell our parents, if we have parent education, if the child drop 6 or dozen of crayon, he doesn't want to clean it. But like if it's 2 or 3, it's okay. But when it doesn't, it's overwhelming for the child. We have to we have to look, when we are preparing the environment, put the child perspective first, because this environment is prepared for the child, not to please anybody else but the child. So for me, and I love simple art, I put simple art all the time, and it's always available. But like if we see some children there, want to challenge themselves, their capability, we may add some more activities, like the painting with fruit, stencil with fruit. They can make actually they can make cards, like holiday cards. Instead of doing the cards, that instead of doing it a holidays art, they can make they can, when they finish the work, we can fold it and they can make it as a holiday card, and they can send it to families and friends, like, can send it home. And it is their own original work.
So so there's so much in there, and I want to again focus on one thing you said and
Mhm.
have you hash it out a little bit. You're talking about not praising, which you're speaking my language here, Sue. This is something we talk
Yes.
about quite a bit. And can you talk about how you train your new guides? How do they respond? The child runs over and they say, Miss Saad, look at what I did. Look at what I did. And how do you respond to them?
In our environment, in my little environment, so they observe and try to be not try, like, you have to have the classroom in harmony. So you have to have a wonderful relationship with the adult in the environment, because the children, they absorb all the energy. So this is critical for me. Like, it's crucial. You have to have a good relationship. But as if you, when they see me as expert, so they see what I'm doing, and they just mimic what. So if you want to compliment a work for the child, it is okay if a child comes to you and said, Miss Saad, look at my work. I say, oh, I see. You have a line. You had a one longer line and the other, so you can talk about, verbalize this, what you see, not to put it in a realistic. You can't say this. It looks like a house. No, he doesn't mean to draw a house. This is, you can say, I see. You can talk about the lines and that he draws. You can talk about the color. I see you have you draw with the blue color. I see you press. You can talk about the pressure, or with the object on the paper. I see. Oh, you press here very hard. I can see the black is very deep, but the yellow is less deep. So you can talk about the pressure, the color, um, and the subject. You can verbalize. You can talk to the children about that. And here I have. I will tell you. I'll tell you this story, but let me finish. I don't want to jump from a subject to other. What what things you cannot comment that you need to be refrained from saying it. Talking about asking the child what is this or what is that, or what are you doing. Um, don't do that. Don't draw on a wall. Don't. I have a big things about don't, because don't in a child means don't learn.
Mm.
Stop. Don't learn. So do like what Joey is doing. That's a big no. One things we can just also refrain of saying it. Uh, you are you're not artistic, or you're naughty, or any negative words. That's a big no. When we're talking about don't, can I say something, like, when I'm
Please.
talking about don't, um, this contradict with the child, um, that innate um, urgent to explore. When you tell the child, don't do that, or be careful, it's just like don't do it, or don't touch. Exactly. Like, so when we talk about that, like, the child in this stage of development, as like Ellen Wolf, and she in her book look at the child. She said obedience and children under 3, obedience and disobedience is just the same. like the child cannot wait, they cannot obey. Sometimes they listen because your command or your request meet one of his need. But like normally, toddler, they're not listening. They don't have to listen. They need the, if you have a well prepared environment, you don't have to say don't or no at all. When you say no a lot to a child, that's mean you need to look at your environment and you need to look at yourself.
Okay, so I love that. And okay, just a couple more questions we have time for. Do you ever use nature in the artwork with the children?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Nature provide lots of elements and it's for the children, like wind, soil, the scent of the rainfall, and uh, inspecting rocks, the little creatures, like little creatures. This like make the art activity more holistic. We definitely when the weather is appropriate, we take the easel outside and let the children draw. In the spring and summer, we have a big fence, and in between infant and toddlers, we have huge roll of paper, and when we put it with big pin, we have like it's almost like maybe 6 meters. We put the paper and like a few containers of paint, and the children did enjoy and have fun. Definitely, nature is also enhance the sensorial activities.
Yeah, I mean, even I was out on a walk. It's been snowy here the last couple days, and I was out on a walk with my 13-year-old who started using a stick to make patterns in the snow, and it just ended up being beautiful. And art doesn't have to be something that stays forever. Art, they can use make mosaics on the ground. They can we have sometimes paintbrushes out and they paint the wood fence and make
Mhm,
interesting patterns on the wood and then it as it dries it has its own not texture but kind of from dark to light and so it's really I love the idea of having them have that opportunity for creativity outdoors as much as indoors as well.
mhm, mhm. And once I heard one of a presenter, I think it was an AMS, he said, children, they need to go outside, they need to have activity outside all the time. There is no bad weather, there is bad gear. So most of the children, they have appropriate clothes to go outside and enjoy and work. We did it during the pandemic. We worked for a whole year in outdoor, like in 2021, and it was beautiful until December. We were out every day, and the children, they were fine.
Of course, there are cultures where they're outside for their whole early childhood, and they're much colder cultures than we are. So, um, well, it has been absolutely a pleasure having you today, Sue. My full disclosure, folks, we have two of our guides who have been trained by Miss Saad, or they call her Miss Saad, but it's by Sue, and um, we feel so lucky to have you. They speak so highly of you and what a treat to have you to share you with our listeners. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Lots and lots of wisdom here. And to our listeners, I want to say thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for the work that you do. You are doing the work making the world a better place. We're so grateful to have you. Please check us out on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our podcast so we can keep bringing you great people like Sue. We'll see you next time.